England wasn't always England. Before kings wore crowns and castles dotted the landscape, this land was a blood-soaked battlefield where entire civilizations disappeared overnight. What happened here changed Europe forever, and the truth is far more brutal than anything you learned in school. The story of how England came to exist is one of the most violent and complex transformations in human history. We're talking about centuries of invasions, betrayals, and warfare that turned a collection of warring tribes into one of the most powerful nations the world has ever seen. This isn't just about dates and kings. This is about survival, conquest, and the complete destruction of entire ways of life. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how a Roman province became Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, and how those kingdoms were forged into England through fire and blood.
To understand how England was formed, we need to go back to a time when England didn't exist at all. Picture this. It's the year 400 AD. The Roman Empire, which has controlled this island for nearly 4 centuries, is collapsing. Roman legions are withdrawing from Britain because Rome itself is under attack. The soldiers, the governors, the entire Roman administration that kept order and protected the province is leaving. They're going back to defend the heart of the empire, and they're never coming back. The people left behind are terrified. For generations, they've relied on Roman military might to protect them from raiders and invaders. They've become Romanized. They speak Latin, they live in Roman-style towns, they follow Roman laws. But now they're on their own. The massive stone walls and fortifications the Romans built are still standing, but there's nobody left to defend them. The organized Roman army is gone. The infrastructure is crumbling. Roads that once connected thriving cities are falling into disrepair. And here's where the nightmare begins. The Romano-British people, desperate for protection, make a decision that will haunt them for centuries. They invite Germanic warriors from across the North Sea to come and help defend them against raiders from the north. These warriors are called the Anglo-Saxons, and they come from what is now Germany, Denmark, and the Netherlands. The Romano-British leaders think they can control these mercenaries, pay them, and send them home when the job is done. They are catastrophically wrong.
The Anglo-Saxons arrive in small groups at first. They're fierce warriors, pagans who worship gods like Woden and Thor. They come from a harsh world of forests and seas, and they're nothing like the Romanized Britons. These are people who value strength, honor in combat, and loyalty to their war chiefs above everything else. They speak Old English, a Germanic language that sounds completely alien to the Latin-speaking Britons. At first, everything seems to work according to plan. The Anglo-Saxon warriors fight off the raiders. They're effective, brutal, and they get the job done. But then something changes. These warriors start looking around at this land they're defending, and they realize something. This place is rich. The soil is fertile. The climate is mild compared to their frozen homelands. The Romano-British cities, even in decline, are more sophisticated than anything back home. And most importantly, the people here are weak. They've been protected by Rome for so long that they've forgotten how to truly fight. The Anglo-Saxons send word back home. More ships arrive. Then more. Then more. What started as a few hundred mercenaries becomes thousands of settlers. Entire families, whole tribes cross the North Sea in their wooden ships. They're not coming to visit anymore. They're coming to stay, and they're coming to take what they want. The Romano-British realize too late what's happening. They try to fight back, but they're no match for these professional warriors. The Anglo-Saxons don't just defeat them in battle, they push them out of their homes, off their lands, into the western mountains and hills. The Romano-British flee to Wales, to Cornwall, to Cumbria. The lucky ones escape. The unlucky ones are killed or enslaved. Entire cities are abandoned. The beautiful Roman villas with their mosaics and heating systems are left to decay.
The Anglo-Saxons don't want Roman civilization. They're not interested in preserving Latin culture or maintaining Roman buildings. They tear it all down and start fresh. This is where England truly begins. The Anglo-Saxons divide the land they've conquered into kingdoms. 7 major kingdoms emerge, and this period becomes known as the Heptarchy. In the south, you have Wessex, the kingdom of the West Saxons. In the southeast, there's Sussex, the South Saxons, and Essex, the East Saxons. In the east, the kingdom of East Anglia rises. In the Midlands, Mercia becomes a powerhouse. In the north, Northumbria stretches from the Humber River all the way to Scotland. And in the southeast, there's Kent, which actually maintains some Roman influence because it's closest to the European continent. These kingdoms are constantly at war with each other. There's no sense of English unity yet. A man from Wessex doesn't think of himself as English. He thinks of himself as a West Saxon, and he hates the Mercians just as much as he hates the Welsh. The kings of these realms are warriors first and rulers second. They lead their men into battle personally. They're expected to be brave, generous with treasure, and ruthless to their enemies. If a king shows weakness, his own nobles will turn on him. The Anglo-Saxon kingdoms bring a completely new culture to Britain. They build halls made of timber instead of stone palaces. They create a new art style full of intricate patterns and animal designs. They compose epic poems like Beowulf that celebrate heroic warriors fighting monsters and dragons. They establish a social structure based on personal loyalty between lords and their followers. If you're a warrior sworn to a lord, you're expected to die for him in battle. If you survive when your lord dies, you're considered a coward and an oath-breaker. This is a society built on honor, warfare, and personal bonds. But the Anglo-Saxons bring something else too: paganism. The Romano-British were Christians. The Anglo-Saxons worship the old Germanic gods. They build temples to their deities. They practice elaborate burial rites, placing warriors in ship burials with their weapons and treasures. For decades, it seems like Christianity might disappear from eastern and southern Britain entirely. Then, in 597 AD, something happens that changes everything. Pope Gregory the Great sends a missionary named Augustine to Britain. Augustine lands in Kent and begins converting the Anglo-Saxons to Christianity. The king of Kent, Ethelbert, converts, and his kingdom becomes the first Christian Anglo-Saxon realm. From there, Christianity spreads. Missionaries travel from kingdom to kingdom. Monasteries are built. Churches replace pagan temples. Within 100 years, all the major Anglo-Saxon kingdoms are Christian. This matters more than you think. Christianity brings literacy. Monks start writing things down, keeping records, creating histories. Before Christianization, almost everything we know about the Anglo-Saxons comes from archaeology. After Christianization, we have actual written sources. Christianity also connects the Anglo-Saxon kingdoms to the wider European world. They're no longer isolated barbarians. They're part of Christendom, connected to Rome, to Francia, to the entire Christian world. But the warfare between kingdoms continues. Throughout the 600s and 700s, different kingdoms dominate at different times. Northumbria has a golden age of learning and culture. Mercia, under King Offa, becomes so powerful that Offa literally builds a massive earthwork barrier called Offa's Dyke along the border with Wales. It's over 150 miles long, and parts of it still exist today. The Wessex struggle for survival, sometimes paying tribute to stronger neighbors. Then, in 873 AD, everything changes again. Viking raiders attack the monastery at Lindisfarne in Northumbria. They slaughter the monks, steal everything of value, and burn the buildings. This is the beginning of the Viking Age in Britain, and it's absolutely devastating. These aren't settlers like the Anglo-Saxons were. These are raiders who come from nowhere, strike with terrifying speed, and disappear before anyone can respond. They attack monasteries because that's where the wealth is: gold, silver,
jewels, and nobody to defend it except unarmed monks. The raids get worse. More Vikings come, bigger fleets. In 865, something terrifying happens. A massive Viking army called the Great Heathen Army lands in East Anglia. This isn't a raid,
with King
this is
Olaf
an
at the helm,
invasion.
the alliance
Vikings
faced the
conquer
English
East
at the
Anglia.
spectacular
They
Battle
conquer
of
Northumbria
Brunanburh.
and capture
Though
the
it is
city of
unknown
York.
exactly
They
where
conquer
this battle
most of
took
Mercia.
place, it is certain
One
that
by
the
one,
alliance
the
was
Anglo-Saxon
severely
kingdoms
crushed by the
fall.
English invaders.
Kings are
The casualties
killed,
on both
armies are
sides
destroyed.
was disastrously
Viking
high,
warlords
but Ethelstan
carve up
and the
the conquered
English were
territories
without a doubt
and settle their
the victors.
warriors on the land.
It's believed by many
By
that this
870,
clash may
only
have
one
truly solidified the
Anglo-Saxon
unity
kingdom
of England
remains,
and stirred up a
Wessex.
new sense of
This
nationalism
is the
and
moment
pride
when
amongst the
England is
English
truly
people.
born.
Nonetheless,
The King of
it didn't
Wessex is a
result
young
in the
man named
incorporation
Alfred.
of Alba nor
He's
struck
desperate.
Clyde
His
into
kingdom
the
is
kingdom of
surrounded.
England, as both
Viking armies
stayed
are everywhere.
independent.
Most of his
England, on the
nobles
other
think
hand,
the situation
would have
is
to prove
hopeless.
its ability to
In
do
878,
so. The
a Viking army
though
launches a
temporarily
surprise
defeated,
winter
would
attack
return
and
to the
nearly
young
captures
kingdom at
Alfred
the end
himself.
of the 10th century.
He has to flee
After
into the
Ethelstan's
marshes of
death in
Somerset
939,
with just a
the
handful of
previously
followers.
defeated King
The
of
King
Dublin,
of Wessex
who
is
was
hiding
a
in
Viking
swamps,
ruler, took
living like a
immediate
fugitive in
advantage
his own
of
kingdom.
England's temporary
But Alfred
instability,
doesn't give
while
up.
King
He
Ethelstan's
sends
brother
out messages
Edmund
to his
took
people.
over the English
calls
realm.
them to
King
resist.
Olaf swooped
Slowly,
in to
warriors
reconquer
begin
some of the
gathering.
lands that had
Men
once
who
been
refuse
in
to
Viking
submit to
hands.
Viking rule
York
make their
was
way
quickly
to Alfred's
captured,
camp.
and a large
He
chunk of what
rebuilds
used
his
to be
army in
Northumbria
secret,
and
right under
Mercia
the
was
Vikings'
also
noses.
taken, as he
Then, when the
strong-armed
time
the
is
English
right,
into
Alfred
accepting
strikes.
this annexation.
He marches out of the
Ironically,
marshes with
when
his
Olaf
army
died
and
in
confronts the
941,
Vikings
and
at a
his
place
cousin,
called
who
Eddington.
shared the same name,
The battle
was
is
transitioning
brutal.
to the throne as
Everything
his
depends
successor,
on this
Edmund
moment.
of England
If Alfred
jumped
loses,
on the chance
Wessex
to pay the
falls,
Vikings
and
back
the
for
Anglo-Saxons
invasion.
will
The
be
following
completely
year,
conquered.
the middle chunk
If
of
he
annexed
wins,
land
there's
was
hope.
retaken by the
Alfred's
English,
army
and in only
smashes
2
into
more
the Viking
years,
shield
the Vikings
wall.
were
The
entirely
fighting
pushed
goes
out
on
of
for
Northumbria.
hours. Men
This
are hacking
essentially
at each other with
reunited
swords and
England,
axes.
since the
The
territory
ground
was
becomes
now
slick with
all
blood.
under
But
Edmund's
Alfred's
control.
forces
As
break
ambitious
through.
as
The
his
Vikings
ancestors,
run.
Edmund's
Alfred
next invaded
pursues them back to their
Strathclyde,
fortress
but only
and
took
besieges
some of
them.
its southern
The Vikings
territories
are
by the
trapped,
end of the incursion.
starving, with
The
no
rest
way out.
was given to
Their
King
leader,
Malcolm I
Guthrum,
of
surrenders.
Scotland, as opposed
Alfred
to joining
could have
England.
executed
It
them
once
all.
again
Instead,
appeared as though
he
the
makes a
kingdom
deal.
of England had
Guthrum and his
established some
warriors will
stability.
convert to
But
Christianity.
this was
They'll
once
leave
more
Wessex alone.
short-lived.
They can keep the lands
Edmund
they've
was
already conquered
mysteriously
in the north and
murdered
east,
in
but they
946,
must recognize
which left
Alfred's
his younger
authority
brother,
and
Edred,
stop their
as
attacks.
King of England.
Guthrum
The next year,
agrees.
Eric
He's
Bloodaxe
baptized
from
as a
Norway
Christian,
attacked
with Alfred
and
as his
seized the
godfather.
recently
The treaty
reincorporated
divides
Northumbria,
Britain
which
into
prompted
two
almost
parts.
a decade
The
of
Danelaw
conflicts
in the
over
north
who
and east,
throughout the Isles
controlled by
would
Vikings,
lead Northumbria.
and the Anglo-Saxon
Eventually, the English
territories in
king
the
was
south
able
and west,
to once again
controlled by
and
Alfred.
permanently
This
reclaim
treaty
the
is the
territory on
foundation of
behalf
England.
His
Alfred
death
doesn't
soon
just
ended his
survive.
reign
He
after this
transforms
victory, and his
Wessex
young
into a
nephew
military
Edward
powerhouse.
temporarily
He
succeeded
builds
him, but was quickly
fortified
deposed
towns
in
called
favor of his
burghs
brother
all across
Edgar.
his kingdom,
However,
creating
this was
a
only a
network of
partial
defended
deposition,
settlements
which
that
meant
Vikings
that
can't
Edwig
easily
would still
attack.
hold a
He
small
builds a
section of
navy
the
to
kingdom
fight
as a
Viking ships at sea.
co-ruler. When
He
Edwig
establishes
died
a
only
legal
2
code,
years after
promotes
this decision,
education,
Edgar
and even
simply
learns
took
Latin
over the
himself
whole of England.
so he can translate
Under the reign of
important
King
books for his
Edgar,
people.
known as
Alfred
Edgar the
becomes
Peaceful,
the first
the true
king to call
foundations
himself
of the English
king of the
kingdom could finally be
Anglo-Saxons
established.
instead of just
Many
king of
reforms
Wessex.
were passed,
He's
and a
claiming
vast number of
authority
the
over
systems
all
and
the
laws that had
Anglo-Saxon
existed
people,
in the
not
Danelaw
just his own
were
kingdom.
actually upheld in
Alfred's
hopes of
son,
avoiding
Edward,
any
and his
displeasure
daughter,
from the
Ethelfled,
Danish portion
continue
of
his
the
work.
population.
They launch
Peace,
campaigns
unity,
into the Danelaw,
and order were the
gradually
pillars of
conquering
Edgar's
Viking-held
nearly
territories.
two-decade-long
They
reign,
build more
and his work
fortresses. They
helps
win
to fully
battle after
solidify
battle.
the unity of
Edward's
the young
son,
kingdom of
Aethelstan,
England.
goes even further.
The ultimate foundation of England was a
927,
long and
Aethelstan
shaky
conquers
process,
the last
from the
Viking
initial
kingdom in
immigration
Britain
of the
and forces the
Anglo-Saxons
king of
into the
Scotland
region
to
to the
submit to his
establishment of
authority.
their first kingdom,
Aethelstan calls
extending into
himself
the invasion
Rex
and rule of the
Anglorum,
Vikings.
king
It
of the
wasn't
English.
until the
For the
Anglo-Saxons
first
began
time,
to
there's
seize
one king
territory from
ruling
the
over
Danelaw
all the
that an
Anglo-Saxon
inkling of modern
territories
England
from
could
the
be
English
seen
Channel to the
after
Scottish
a series
border.
of conquering,
This
being
is
conquered,
England.
reconquering,
The old
and so
identities
on.
are gone.
The
The
Anglo-Saxons
people start
eventually
thinking of
united
themselves
the
as
existing
English
kingdoms
instead of
throughout
West
England.
Saxons
From
or
there,
Mercians.
it was merely a
The
matter
country
of
has
establishing
borders,
solid
laws,
borders,
a single
maintaining
monarchy,
their
and
captured
a shared
territory
identity
in order to
forged
keep their
through
kingdom
decades of
physically
warfare
solid, and
against
eventually,
Viking invaders.
under the rule